Today, you will master the basics of anatomy and physiology. Basic concepts and core principles are the foundations on which more information is built. So, without further ado, let's begin. The key concept you must know to succeed is the name of the subject itself: anatomy and physiology. Anatomy studies the body's shape, form, and structure. Physiology studies the body's functions. Although they have different definitions, they are inseparable. Now, if you're thinking, why is this so important? Well, you will find out that later in the course, certain things are classified either structurally or functionally, and many students confuse the two. Let me give you an example. Let's use your tibiofemoral joint, or the knee joint. Your knee joint is structurally classified as a synovial joint. That is a joint characterized by having space between two bones filled with synovial fluid, and ends of those bones are covered with cartilage. Functionally, they are a diarthrodile joint, or diarthrosis, which is a joint that is freely movable. Sometimes questions on exams will try to confuse you, so make sure you understand the difference between structure and function. Now, let's move on to the characteristics of an organism. These are 7 characteristics a living organism must possess in order to be alive. You might have already learned this prior to taking anatomy and physiology. Nevertheless, let's go over it quickly. Now, different words might be used to describe these characteristics, but don't worry. The idea is the same regardless. Up first is cellular composition. All living beings must be composed of one or more cells, since a cell is the smallest unit that can carry out functions of life. That can be a single-celled organism, like a bacteria, or a complex multicellular organism like you. Next is metabolism, which is basically just chemical reactions. They carry out numerous chemical reactions to sustain life from a single cell to multiple cells. Now, there are actually 2 types of metabolism: anabolic and catabolic. Anabolic or anabolism is when smaller chemicals combine, resulting in a bigger chemical. So think of it as growing. Catabolic or catabolism is the opposite. It is when large chemicals break down into smaller chemicals. Again, think of anabolism as growing and catabolism as losing or breaking down. Next, we have excretion. Chemical reactions end with a product. Sometimes those products are no longer useful to a cell or the human body. If accumulated, they are toxic and harmful, therefore they must be removed as waste. This can happen at a cellular level, when cells take in fuel and remove waste. And in your case, that's when you go to the bathroom. Next, we have growth. When there is more anabolism taking place, the result is growth. That occurs in 2 forms: when the size of the cell increases, or when the number of cells increases. Next, we have movement or transportation. This doesn't necessarily mean physical movement of an organism, since plants obviously can't get up and walk away. This refers to movement within the body of an organism, such as movement of nutrients, waste, gas, and other substances. An organism also needs to possess responsiveness. It needs to be able to sense and react to stimuli, which are changes in the environment. Lastly, we have reproduction. An organism must be able to reproduce individual cells or creations of offspring similar to itself. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Alright, the last concept we need to discuss before the video ends is the levels of structural organization. You probably learned this prior to taking anatomy and physiology, but let's go over it quickly. What do you think is the most basic level of organization for the human body? If you think it's the cell, you're actually wrong. The most basic level is chemicals. Without numerous and diverse chemicals intricately arranged and mixed together, there won't be a cell, and there won't be you. For example, the cell membrane looks like this at a molecular level. It is 2 layers of phosphate head and lipid tails, called the phospholipid bilayer, which we will discuss in the future. So yeah, cells are made up of chemicals, and you are made up of trillions of cells. The levels are chemical, cell, tissue, organ system, and organism. Pretty easy, right? A bunch of chemicals forms a cell. When a group of similar cells form together and perform a common task, they form a tissue. For example, Your blood is actually a specialized connective tissue. Yup, that's right. Your blood is a tissue. Your blood consists of plasma, and the rest is different types of cells and cell fragments. They are different from each other, however, they combine to perform the functions of blood, which we will get into in the future. When two or more tissues combine to perform a specific task, it's now an organ. For example, your heart consists of 3 layers of tissue. The outermost is the epicardium. The middle layer is a thick layer of cardiac muscle called myocardium, and the innermost layer is the endocardium, which is the lining on the inside of the heart. As you can see, the heart comprises different types of tissues. When multiple organs work together to perform a broad function, it becomes an organ system. For example, your heart's main function is to pump blood. However, blood also needs a vessel to travel. Your cardiovascular system comprises your heart, arteries, veins, and capillaries. They all work in unison to ensure blood circulation. Lastly, multiple organ systems compose you, keeping you alive and allowing you to study anatomy. Alright guys, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. Subscribe and stay tuned for more. In the next video, we will cover homeostasis and its 4 core principles, directional terms, and much more. See you next time.